All right. My name is Joan Woodard, and I'm the hearing examiner this evening. The purpose of this hearing is to allow me to receive evidence and testimony on the matters that are pending. I make a recommendation only to the county commissioners. I do not make the final decision. I will be submitting my recommendation to staff within 2 weeks of this evening's hearing. The application will then be scheduled for deliberations before the county commissioners. If you wish to give testimony, I need you to fill out one of the sheets in the back, and when you come to the podium, please give your name and address for the record before you begin your testimony. I'd ask for the same thing, although not filling out a sheet. If you're on Zoom, when we call you, please state your name and address for the record before you begin speaking. First, staff will introduce the application, then we will hear from the applicant. After the applicant's testimony, we will then get into the public comment sheets. We will hear from those who are in favor, those who are neutral, and then those who are opposed. The public not speaking will be read into the record. We will then give the applicant and/or their representative an opportunity for rebuttal of any testimony stated into the record from the public before we close the public hearing. After that point, we will receive no more testimony. The time limits this evening are 30 minutes for the applicant presentation, 3 minutes for public testimony, and 15 minutes for applicant rebuttal. I would ask that you direct all your testimony to me and not to the audience. Are there any questions regarding these proceedings? Not hearing any, we will begin this evening with case number VAR 22-0007.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development. As you just stated, this is a request by Mr. Zimmerman for the approval of a variance to a front yard setback requirement of 25 feet in the restricted residential zone. The subject property is located on the south side of Hayden Lake. It's located between Lower Hayden Lake Road and Upper Hayden Lake Road. It is a waterfront parcel of land. However, the request for a variance is being asked on the upland portion of the property, which is south of Lower Hayden Lake Road. The subject property is approximately 1/4 acre in size. It is currently undeveloped, but it does have a retaining wall, as you have seen based on your site visit, on a portion of the property where the applicant is proposing to construct a residence. This is an aerial overlay of the subject property in question. The portion that is south of Lower Hayden Lake Road is like a step bench. You have a flatter portion of the property that is between the retaining wall and the existing public road right-of-way. And then as you go further south above the retaining wall, it gets fairly steep, and then it heads up all the way up to Upper Hayden Lake Road. As I stated, the subject property is zone restricted residential, and the front yard setback is 25 feet. The side yard setback is 10 feet, and rear is 25. Originally, the applicant requested a different variance. In fact, the original request consisted of multiple variances. One was to the front yard setback, and the second one was to both side yard setbacks. The applicant initially requested a 0-foot setback from the Lower Hayden Lake Road that bisects the property, as well as a 5-foot setback on either side, on the west and east side of the side yard property lines. Based on my communication with Mr. Zimmerman, I explained to him that historically the county has processed numerous applications for a front yard variance setback due to undue hardship, specifically steep slopes on site, which would be supportive of a front yard variance approval to minimize the amount of excavation and retaining walls on the property. However, we could not support the side yard setback variances because the slopes would not support the granting of the side yard variance request, and we believe that that would be a self-imposed action. Mr. Zimmerman understood staff's concerns, and I'd like to add that we also had a concern about the front yard setback being 0 feet with a 25-foot variance. Mr. Zimmerman understood staff concerns and he modified his request to remove the variance to the side yard setbacks and move forward with a 10-foot side yard setback on either side. But he stated that he would move forward with a variance of 0 feet from the Lower Hayden Lake Road 50-foot right-of-way and request a 25-foot variance and see how the agencies with jurisdiction would respond. I advised him that it's unlikely the Highway District would be supportive of having the residents right on the right-of-way line, but he wanted to take a chance. As we move forward with the agency comment period, the Highway District did respond with that concern, which I'll get into the details as we move forward. These are some of the photos. This is the retaining wall. These are some of the photos that we have. This is the upper Hayden Lake Road, and you can see it's fairly steep. We're talking about, slopes in excess of 30 to 40% on the subject property. This is the topo map with the overlay of the site plan, and it shows what is now being requested as a 10-foot setback with a 15-foot variance. The applicant did submit a geotechnical analysis that states, in their opinion, the subject property is suitable for development so long as they comply with the general recommendations that are within that report. And that's pretty common in this area. There have been numerous. I have processed myself probably close to a dozen of variance requests on this road and on Upper Hayden Lake Road over the years. And we always request geotechnical analysis because we know that there's been historical concerns and issues with slides and unstable soil conditions. And there are areas of that hillside that are very wet because there are underground drainages and springs, and you're aware of that because you have seen those as well on other sites. So it was a necessity for us to have in hand, so at least preliminarily we could see that this site can be developed. Moving forward with the agency comment period, none of the agencies had any concerns with the exception of the Highway District. And so through the initial review process, the Highway District came back and says they would not be in support of a 0-foot setback because their main concern was, of course, egress and ingress and not having safe measures for entering onto the public right-of-way, because technically you need to have, in other cases they responded to have a 3-point turnaround where the vehicle can, instead of backing out, they can enter into the public right-of-way with all the safety measures in place. I explained this to Mr. Zimmerman, and he advised me that he would get in contact with the Highway District and address their concerns. And subsequent to that, he did submit a modified application as it is being proposed today with a 10-foot setback and a 15-foot variance. And we got a response that the Highway District was receptive and acceptable to the proposed change with a 10-foot setback distance from Hayden Lake Road. During the public comment period, we received comments from 3 individuals, 2 in support and 1 in opposition. The concerns were raised with regard to the structure being in close proximity to the public right-of-way and potentially impacting sight distance due to the curvature of the road. I have driven that road on numerous occasions. From my personal experience, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but I did not see the issue that was raised with respect to sight distance in that specific area, although there is some curvature along that road elsewhere, and that could present a sight distance issue. Nor did we receive any concerns with the modified request from the Highway District that would suggest that a sight distance is still problematic. Therefore, we believe that with the latest proposal, staff is in support of this application because there is undue hardship based on the characteristics of the site. This is not a self-imposed action. They're dealing with existing steep slopes on site, and the Highway District is not opposed to it. One point that we did not fully vet through, but that will be something that I would like for you to ask the applicant if you can. We We posed the question early on with regard to what's going to happen to the retaining wall that's there, the concrete retaining wall, because we believe that it would impede the proposed footprint of the residence as based on its location. Mr. Zimmerman explained to me that he's unsure whether a portion of that retaining wall would be utilized for the foundation of the future residence or somehow be incorporated into the design of the residence. It's hard to imagine how that's going to work, or if it needs to be completely removed and placed elsewhere, depending on, of course, the final design of the residence. And of course, our building division would review the surcharge from the hillside on that retaining wall that's there, as well as the new retaining wall for the residence and the foundation for the residence. That remains unclear at this point. But I think with the geotechnical analysis and a building permit that will be reviewed more thoroughly during the building permit stage, it can be accomplished. But I'd like for you to ask Mr. Zimmerman to clarify that if you so choose. I stand for any questions that you have for me at this time.
I don't have any for you, Glenn, right now. Thanks. Okay, we're ready to hear from the applicant.
Mr. Zimmerman, go ahead and unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Oh, good evening, everyone. I appreciate you accommodating me on this. I'm actually over in Seattle going through a bone marrow transplant for cancer right now, so can't make it to the meeting in person. I wish I could be there to give a more formal presentation, but glad I appreciate your introduction, and it's been good working with the county on this. They've been very straightforward on the process. It's very clear and outlined, so I appreciate that. Just to start off to answer the question on the retaining wall, that will be removed to build the residence there. And before we get started, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jerem Zimmerman. My wife, Christy Zimmerman. We both actually grew up in Hayden, went to schools in Dalton and Canfield, and graduated from Coeur d'Alene High School. And then after that, moved around quite a bit in the military. But we're from the area, and we just moved back actually last year. We bought the property with the intention of building our home and raising our 3 girls on the property. And so we're excited to be moving along on this process. For the residents, as Vlad was saying, the hillside and as you get closer to the upper Hidden Lake Road, the hillside the slope dramatically increases. You can see that the one photo that was shown at the beginning. It's over 100% grade at the very top portion of that. So the further you go back into that hillside, the more instability. Yeah, the picture on the right there. The more instability you're going to get in that slope, and the more dangerous it's going to be to excavate that out. And so that's what we're trying to avoid, going back into that hillside, just for the safety of the construction site and the road above and the houses above. So that's why we're trying to keep this to the more manageable slope below. And with the more manageable slope below, we calculated what our house plan. We still plan on stepping it up with each floor. It'd be a 2-story house above a garage, so 3 stories in total. And with the first floor, the garage, at the road level or slightly above the road level there. And we tried to fit the house within the county setbacks, building setbacks for the front yard and side yard, and it's not doable with how narrow the lot is and how steep it is in the back. You quickly become the slope becomes quickly too steep to reasonably construct a home there. So we have asked to move the house slightly closer to the road, a variance of 15 feet to the county road to the highway district easement, which is 25 feet of each side of center line, to accommodate that. And it's very similar to the other homes that have been constructed on that hillside, and they're kind of all running into the same problems, where we are all running into the same problem with the hillside, the slope from the upper Hayden Lake Road. So and once again, we do plan on removing that retaining wall. We don't have finalized plans at this point. We want to see what happens with the variance application before we have it fully engineered and designed. And so, but that retaining wall will be coming out, will be removed, and we will have the slope and retaining walls behind the house engineered to to withstand the slope and also the water, if there is any water seepage, get the proper drainage to make sure that foundation is secure and sound. That's all I have, and I'd open up that's all I have to present on.
Okay, excuse me, Vlad, could you put up the slide that has the footprint of the house there? Thank you.
Joan, is your microphone on?
Sorry. When I was out there yesterday and walking around, I didn't realize that you were planning to come into your garage from Lower Hayden Lake Road. It sort of seemed to me, based on the contours of the property, that you had this ideal situation where you could pull into your western edge of your retaining wall that's currently there and come in with a driveway and enter up there, giving yourself a way to turn your car around and go back out, and leaving the space that's next to Lower Hayden Lake Road in front of the retaining wall for visitor parking. So I'm kind of curious why you're not going to utilize the property that you currently have where it's pretty flat.
That's a great idea, but we actually don't own the property to the left. So in the drawing there, that's actually two properties. When it was surveyed, we purchased this property with my wife's parents, and they actually own that property, and they're going to be looking to build on that property. So we can't use their access there. It would be ideal, like you're saying, to be able to pull in and pull right out and around, but when they construct a home there, it'd block us off. And
You sure you guys don't want to do a shared driveway with an easement agreement?
yeah, we've talked about that, but we wanted to just, we feel like if we brought it down to the road level, it would allow plenty of room for turnaround actually within the driveway. So I think we'll be safe we will be safe doing it this way as well. But we did talk about a shared driveway, but we decided not to go that route.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any further questions. All right, we'll open up for public comment. Do we have any comment sheets? We don't. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
No, there's no one.
Go fill out a sheet. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Vlad. Okay, it's Jeff Hackby? Harvey. That's an R? I'm sorry. Come on up to the podium. And name and address, please.
My name is Jeff Harvey. I live at 5925 East Hayden Lake Road, Hayden Lake, Idaho. I'm here to represent the Hayden Lake Watershed Association. We look at all these and we're very concerned about the quality of the lake and the impact of development on the lake. I didn't know if I was going to testify about this because I didn't know the particulars. I would say we are neutral on this at the moment because probably the better of all worlds, this is going to cut down the excavation. And our experience is when they excavate into this hillside at any depth, and I'm sure it's the planning division's experience as well, we get a lot of trouble and a lot of problems. So if this limits, for 10 feet, if this limits the amount of excavation into that back wall, all the better. We are going to be very concerned that we don't end up with another, this would be the third in a row, construction digging on the side of this hill without the proper constraints that that protect the lake. The track record has been a lot of these excavations have gone into the inside ditch, gone through the drains, and right into Hayden Lake. So that we don't want to see that. We're neutral on this if it makes for less excavation.
Thank you very much. With no other public comment, we'll throw it back to Mr. Zimmerman for any rebuttal. Do you need to?
No, I hear your concerns. Oh, yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, no, I second that. I'm not sure what's happened with the past building lots that are being constructed right now, but the water quality and the proximity of the construction site to the lake, I understand your concerns, and we'll make sure we're in full compliance with filtering the water prior to it entering the lake during the construction and post-construction phases of this project.
Okay. That is the conclusion of our hearing this evening on case number VAR 22-0007. Mr. Zimmerman, I wish you every good luck with your bone marrow transplant.
Thank you.
And we're done.